Welcome to the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shayla Toombs-Withers. As a double board certified family and obesity medicine physician with over 12 years of experience in medicine, I teach motivated individuals how to achieve their desired quality of life while preventing and reversing chronic diseases. It's tea time. Welcome to the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast. I'm Dr. Shayla Toombs-Withers, and today I have a special guest with me, Dr. Robin Rose. Dr. Robin is a family physician. She has decades of experience in prevention and regenerative holistic type of practice. Her experience with nutrition preceded medical school by many years and has blossomed into working with kidney disease and kidney decline, having created Renology, the art and clinical science of kidney success. Her recent text, Renology Peptides, is a master journey into including bioregulator peptides in the journey for achieving kidney success. Welcome to the show, Dr. Robin. Great to have you.
Great to see
Alrighty. You. And so today, Dr. Robin and I will be discussing ultra-processed foods. Now, you may be wondering, what even are ultra-processed foods? So they are defined as foods that are energy dense, high in unhealthy types of fat, refined starches, free sugars and salt, and poor sources of protein, dietary fiber, and micronutrients. Ultra-processed products are made to be hyper palatable and attractive with long shelf life, and they're able to be consumed anywhere and any time. Today, Dr. Robin and I will be reviewing an article from CNN that was actually published in April of 2025. However, the information is still very relevant and timely, especially as the topic of food and nutrition continues to be heavily debated. The article we're discussing is called Eating More Ultra-Processed Food Ups the Risk of Premature Death, Study Finds. And we will be spilling the tea on how ultra-processed foods are silently destroying your kidneys. All right, Dr. Robin. So we're going to dive into this discussion today, and I'm excited to have this discussion with you. Now, within the study that's featured in the article, they showed a 3% increase in premature death risk for every 10% increase in ultra-processed food calories. Now, from your perspective, what specific mechanisms link those ultra-processed foods to kidney damage, and how may this be contributing to that overall mortality risk?
I have a list. I did a little exploration because the thing that I found out, and as a sidebar, the reason I'm interested in kidney is because I had kidney cancer and lost one and found out that none of us really knew what to do. And so I spent the last 12 years in a deep dive, and it's complicated, and a lot of people really don't understand what the kidneys do. And so I want to just, before I answer that, I want to just jump in and explain. So the kidneys live here, kind of under our ribs in the back. They are intimate with the heart. They're basically a blob of blood vessels. And so you think blood vessels. So all the blood in the body constantly, 24/7, goes into the kidney through the filter. So it's first filtered. And then, this is my current playground. The kidney tubules are very complicated and very delicate, and yet they discern. And it's important, this is important to understand, because this conversation we're having, we're talking about putting stuff in our bodies that can actually harm the kidney tubules. And what do? Is they decide, they discern, what do I keep so that I can thrive? Because all the blood just went through. It took everything. And then what is bad for me that I need to get rid of? At a spiritual level, that's really important to know as well. I mean, part of all of our lives is discernment. What's okay and what isn't, including choosing food. So the tubules are damaged by stuff, and then that backs up, and the glomerulus, the filter, starts breaking down. And so that brings me to, like, why wouldn't I? And I do a lot of I statements with kidney, because even though I went from very scary, dangerous, low kidney function to essentially being considered normal in stage 2, which I think people ought to know, early kidney disease isn't normal. There's stuff we can do, and part of it is this conversation. And so what about these foods can make this precious process? I mean, oh my God, you don't realize what kidneys do until yours aren't working. And then, the whole body's reacting, the brain's not working. So, I mean, it's like, oh my God. And I have clear memory of that. I still have PTSD. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. It's always interesting too when the doctor becomes the patient, and you're on both sides of the table, if you will, from that perspective.
Absolutely. And so I have a list because I wanted to be organized and share this. The first one on my list is sodium. We need sodium. Some people go overboard and they quit eating all sodium, but honestly, most of the foods are so high in sodium that it hurts the tubules. There's like these little transporters. They decide. We're making choices at this microscopic level. So you put these foods in that are like so high in sodium, it's going to cause the blood pressure to go up. It damages the filters. The tubules get damaged. Not a good thing. So that that's one thing. And salt is sodium chloride, but there's also sodium in a lot of stuff as preservatives. And so, the discerning eye, if you can read small labels, it's a good thing. If not, get some reading glasses. So anyway, phosphorus has been one of my favorite conversations with kidney because, I tend to like turn rocks over that nobody's looking at. Phosphorus early on is basically sucking calcium from your bones and putting them in your arteries. Long term with kidney disease, those are two very serious problems. So I want to start early and listen and attend to this. So, there's a lot of phosphorus chemicals in these processed foods. They preserve them. There's use if that's what you're looking to do, is protect these nasty foods, but not a good idea. And what that means is the blood vessels get hard. Oxygen can't get to the tissues. And so the cardiovascular burden, as they call it, is worse. Nothing any of us wants. Okay, the next one, and there's a long list of this, so I'm going to talk fast.
Yeah.
Metabolic derangement. I love that term. Basically, that means sugar poisoning, the carbohydrate on the route to diabetes issue, which is epidemic.
Right. And we know, here in America, the top two causes of chronic kidney disease are diabetes and high blood pressure. And so, you've mentioned the sodium, which we see a lot in high blood pressure, and the sugar that we see, with our diabetes folks. And so, yeah.
It's messing up the blood vessels, which
right.
We have to work harder. And so, in this case, there's terms people have probably heard. Insulin resistance. The wisdom of the body, insulin is a peptide that the body makes. And its job is to keep the blood free of too much sugar and giving it to the cells that need it for fuel. When there's resistance, there's too much sugar in the blood. That's damaging a lot of stuff. The blood vessels can't handle that. Metabolic syndrome is kind of the complication of this, where insulin goes up, the weight goes up, so there's obesity, the triglycerides are elevated, a lot of hazard. And, all this medical mumbo jumbo comes down to pay attention to what you're putting in your mouth. Okay. So oxidative stress, that means we're rusting. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't want to be rusty. Dyslipidemia, we all know that lipids mess up your blood vessels and in time can be very hazardous. And the worst part about it is the nutrient quality of these foods is bad. So, I mean, you can put filler in, it would be like putting shampoo in your car and hoping that it rides. May not. Inflammation is a big conversation in almost all disease. In kidney, it doesn't matter what got you there. Diabetes, hypertension, it could be toxic exposures, cancer, autoimmune disease. No matter. Inflammation is at a cellular and chemical level. It's like, okay, you cut yourself, it's red and swollen. that's inflammation. But when it's happening on the inside, not a very good thing. And so it's a big conversation in our functional medicine community of eat foods that don't inflame your body, because downstream they're suffering. And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to suffer as much as I can avoid it. And so, inflammation, oxidative stress, what the cellular processes are broken, and things like preservatives, artificial sweeteners, emulsifiers, and synthetic additives are causing inflammation. So right there, it's like, no thanks. Dysbiosis was one of the first things I learned about. It was from my oncologist, who said, wait till you get a load of what the microbiome does to kidney. That was all she told me. I had to go look it up. And, basically, we know that the gut, and there's dysbiosis other places, but we're talking gut at the moment. There's a huge community of bacteria. They're our friends. The bad ones that come from eating poorly replace the good ones, and a lot of disease happens. And so these particular foods are in that conversation. They signal damage, and
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot lately about signaling, and it's like musical to me, like a certain substance comes along and it has a message in the body. And so if you realize that, this easy to access food, put the money in and get your chips out of the machine kind of thing, it's singing a song that's going to be a tragic, bad song in time.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Today, and so then the other word I've learned is bias. So what we're learning what's the bias? Do I want to be sick and damaged, or do I want to repair? And so the signal, it's really cool stuff. I mean, it's kind of metaphysical, and I like that. So the other one with kidney that's really a big deal is acidosis. The acid-base balance is a huge thing, and just the anatomy and pathology, the damage to the kidney, is making it so that acid molecules get saved in the body instead of excreted. And, that's like the so what is that a lot of chemistry gets skewed. Again, signals to problems, whether it's with the brain, whether it's with the pancreas. I mean, all over the body, these molecules are causing trouble.
Yeah, yeah. And that really leads us to another point in this article where they talked about the NOVA food classification system, which is a system that categorizes ultra-processed foods as those made from chemically manipulated, those cheap ingredients with the synthetic additives. And touched on some of those specific additives and those processing techniques that can affect our kidney function. And so kind of summarize that for us of what those additives, like if someone was even looking at a package, we're telling people to stay away from these, but if they were looking at a package, what are some of those ingredients that they may be needing to look out for?
It's phosphorus.
Yeah.
If it says silicon dioxide, I don't want any part of it.
Mm-hmm.
What we often say, I mean, kind of tongue in cheek, if you don't know what it is, you don't want it. And
right.
If it doesn't sound like human food. I mean, these are chemicals that are convenient for the manufacturers, not for our health.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things I like to remind people on, and you probably tell your patients this as well, Dr. Robin, but I tell them, think about an apple. You don't see a label on an apple. You don't need one. There, because the ingredient would just say apple. So there's a reason for that. And so that's, kind of when you're looking at foods, and if it doesn't say that main food that you think you're supposed to be eating, then you probably want to steer clear of it. But yeah.
Let's see. I made a lot of lists so I could keep my mind clear. There's high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Maltodextrin, refined starch, carboxymethylcellulose, polysorbate 80, carrageenan is one that's in even health food things, and it's very harmful to the body.
It is. Can you tell us more about that one? Because that's another one I tell people to watch out for too.
Inflammation, it's causing inflammation. It causes gut inflammation. And the cool thing about the gut story, I mean, it's not cool, but it's cool to understand it, is, the colon cells, think about it like a dotted line, and those cells have proteins holding them together. Those get damaged, and then stuff that you're supposed to poop out gets sucked into your blood. I mean, that's just like, oh my God, that's leaky gut, and it's like those molecules then that you were supposed to poop out, which are toxic, obviously, the wisdom of the body knows, like, oh, take the garbage out, is now, the garbage is now floating in your brain and in your eyes. And, and we see it, and we all see it as human beings. I'm a little fatigued, or, I feel spaced out. People have complaints like that and don't realize, oh, I have a handle on this, and so I liked the list a little bit. It was interesting because at first I didn't understand it. Minimally processed, stage 1 of the NOVA, fruits and veggies, meat, milk, and eggs. That didn't sound processed to me. So I was like, okay. The next one is culinary ingredients, salt. We need salt, but too much, not good. Too little, also not good. Herbs, I'm a health food chef from the 70s. And I've been a crazy foodie for a long time. And I love the inclusion of wonderful culinary herbs and spices. They're medicine. I lived in India as a young woman, and every day in the village I lived, people were grinding their spices, and it kept them healthy. It kept parasites out. It keeps the body moving. And so,
and it's a great way to get flavor without that additional salt, that you mentioned, how we need to regulate how much salt. And so, using the herbs and spices is a way of doing that.
Yeah. And I discovered sumac, powdered sumac, which comes from the Middle East. They use it a lot. Is kind of, it replaces salt. And it's actually, a healthy thing. So there's a lot of tricks. It also mentioned oil. And that's a conversation that I like to have, because there are oils that cause inflammation. All of a sudden now we're talking about, these oils. It's really true. And so limit yourself. Avocado oil, olive oil that's purified, maybe a little coconut oil, not too much saturated fat. I actually use some ghee. It's purified butter. They take the proteins out so it's less reactive. And so that's an important thing. The next stage of this is processed food, they call it, canned food, and frozen food. And I've actually looked into this. I'm not crazy about canned food, except, the barge didn't come and we need, there's no food. I live on an island and the barge didn't come this week, and people are going, oh, we need food. Canned food has a place. Home canned food, I prefer. It's fun to do it. Not everybody can. Frozen food actually turns out it's okay.
Yeah. It's interesting that they had frozen food that high on the list, because frozen food, we know it's frozen at the peak of freshness, and it's just flash frozen. And usually if you're just getting, straight up broccoli or beans or whatever, there's not anything added to it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I didn't quite get that. But then we come to stage 4, UPF. I love that. I'm taking my notes. UPF, ultra processed food, bad boys. And so there's little or no whole food. So it's again, it's like you're eating shampoo. I don't know. I've been packing. Wear a shampoo. Chemically manipulated cheap ingredients. I have a house guest right now who's a veterinarian. We've been talking about dog food, which is basically stuff that you would probably throw away.
Right. Yeah. Usually the throwaway ingredients. Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, my dogs don't eat dog food. We make our own. And so, here you go. Am I going to feed that to myself or my friends or family? No. Synthetic additives makes them edible, palatable, and they are habit forming. Oh, there's the I need to know this. It's like, I need this, and the little monkey mind is going, get up, go get the cookies, it's like,
Yeah. And it makes you think to the chip brand where they said, bet you can't eat just one kind of thing. And it's true. And the reason for that is because of all the processing that's been done and the manipulation, so that your brain then starts to crave it and eat more of it and say, oh, then before you know it, you've eaten the whole bag instead of just the one.
And then you're not hungry for dinner. That's what the kids, and letting your children eat this stuff starts their health to go in decline. Maybe they have youth on their side, so it might take 10 or 20 years.
Right.
But, I'm an elder now, and, the people who were kids when I was in the parenting mode are in their 50s. So it's, and I'm seeing some of them sick.
Yeah, and we're seeing, newer studies that have come out where even in childhood, as early as childhood, where we're seeing plaque formation in children and elevated cholesterol levels and things. So these foods, they are wreaking havoc even on our kids and their bodies as well.
Big time. I mean, in one of the things that I read, it said high intake of UPFs, 1 serving a day. That got my attention. I was like, okay. So, I have this like kidney kosher, kidney yogi kind of thing. It really is about discernment. I mean, I've been going through this now for 13 years. So I've gotten some savvy about it. At first, I had no idea what to do. And I wasn't really even aware of like some of my habits were harmful. It's like bang, bang, bang. Oh, I don't like not feeling good.
Yeah.
So, you really have to do a lot of basically talk to God, talk to yourself, talk to your family. Some of the people that I've worked with, their family wouldn't let them eat healthier food.
Yeah. And that's so important that you touched on that. And that is actually one of the things that I have patients who I start working with on their nutrition. That's one of the things I have them do is really keeping a journal. And it's not so much of, what those calories or macros or that kind of thing, but also how did you feel when you ate that? How did you feel when you had that cheeseburger versus how did you feel when you ate the salad? And that's important. And a lot of times what I'll hear even from people, they'll say, well, yeah, when I was eating healthier, I felt so much better. I was able to go out and run and do all these things. And now I'm feeling sluggish and tired. And it's like, okay, your body's telling you what it wanted, what it preferred.
And we have to be like kidney tubules and discern. But I'm so into this because it's like, if I can make proper choices and bias the way my life goes, why wouldn't I? Okay, I'm in a bad mood. I want the chocolate. Okay. When I found out that there's heavy metal toxicity in chocolate, it changed my path about that. Forget this. I'm not doing it. And so, I mean, the statistics from that article were amazing. I mean, these foods, 50% increase in risk of cardiovascular related death and also mental disorders.
Yeah.
And that's a huge one because, I'll share a little personal story. Is like when kidney disease happens, the body gets agitated. It's like going, hey, something's wrong. And all of a sudden there's this sympathetic nervous system, this like adrenaline thing going on. And you're like, I'm not doing anything. What's up? And clearing those chemicals takes longer. And so to realize that the body is causing these mental states, not like, oh, I'm worried about things, because I mean that too, but when you're sitting there going, I'm not worried about anything, but I feel that like, ooh, something's up. By changing the diet and improves that, I mean, wow. And we have some colleagues who are, working with this kind of brain chemistry, mental illness thing. And, conventional medicine, what do? We just give people drugs. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, those drugs cause a lot of problems. They're not pleasant.
Yeah.
So and I've done this with many patients, that help them slowly, because some people are very slow. Some people are like, I'm doing it, I'm full on. And other people are like, oh, I don't know. But, patients and seeing, bipolars stabilize, even schizophrenics who are hearing stuff, it stops. So this isn't trivial. I mean, this is crazy. And it said
No, you're so right.
70% of U.S. food is ultra processed.
What was that percent? Can you repeat that?
It's 70%.
Wow.
That means you got to mean it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you think about even just going back to kids and, if you think about what you see in lunch boxes sometimes, by the time they have their bag of chips, their bag of crackers or cookies, even the granola bars nowadays, with all the other stuff in them. And we talked about how it's really one serving is more than enough to be over the amount that you should be eating. And a kid, they may be getting 3 servings just at lunch.
Yeah, exactly. And that didn't count the breakfast. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And all the other things. Remember when you were told that everything is normal, but you don't feel normal? Well, feeling fine is not the same thing as feeling your best. So stop guessing about your health. Hi, I'm Dr. Shayla Toombs-Withers, and I'm excited to share that Essence of Health Wellness Clinic has opened a new location here in Atlanta. One of the first ways we work with new patients at Essence of Health is through our foundational assessment. And to celebrate our new location, we've opened up access to join the Atlanta Founder Circle when you book your foundational assessment. Together, we'll take a deep dive into your unique physiology to uncover what's holding you back from feeling your best and build a roadmap for your path to sustainable health and wellness. And within the Atlanta Founder Circle, we're throwing in some exciting bonus offers to propel you to health with even more ease. If you're ready for care where you're actually heard, high quality care that finally optimizes your health, then visit essenceofhealthwellnessclinic.com to learn more and join us in the Atlanta Founder Circle. The essence of health is in you.
And then so here's some statistics. 53% increase in anxiety. Nobody wants that. 55% increase in obesity. 41% increase in sleep disorders. And in my kidney conversation, if your sleep is bad, everything gets messed up.
It's going to be exactly. Yeah.
Mess up. And then, I figured this out because my blood pressure was great in the morning. One day I took it at 11 o'clock. It was sky high. And I learned about this whole thing. As you said, the wounded healer, I can research. And why I like to do these is I want to share this with people because we all know this. And so, but a 40% increase in type 2 diabetes, 20% increase in depression, and early death of any cause with cognitive decline, stroke, cancer, and upper GI tract problems.
Just terrible. Yeah. But you think about all the things you mentioned. So diabetes, depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, sleep trouble. These are all of the things, your family doc as well. These are all of the things that we are commonly seeing every day, with people with these issues. And it's no wonder, especially based on the other quote statistic that you gave us, where 70% of our foods are these ultra processed foods. So it's like, 1 and 1 is equaling 2 here when it comes to this. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, oh, your labs are fine.
Yeah.
I don't feel good, doc. And so, that's where, early on in my work, I started realizing, when the labs are bad, okay, I know what to do. When they're fine and the person is clearly telling me, I got all these problems. And it's like, well, let's look at your lifestyle. Okay, are you drinking enough fluids?
And I'm glad you even brought out labs, because I'll tell you, there have been a number of times I've seen patients from other providers who, and I'm looking over their previous labs and I'm saying, did you know that you had some kidney disease here? Because that GFR is, 65 or 69. And they're like, no, they always said it was normal because on the lab, it's only going to pick it up if it's less than 60 to, flash it and highlight it. But you and I very well know that that's not normal for that kidney function to be sitting down that low. And so, it's so interesting that people are walking around thinking things are normal, but that's not. And so even for you, what are some of those other markers? I know you touched on inflammation as well. What are some of those markers that you look for in your patients when you're concerned about ultra processed foods and if that's playing a part in their health?
Basic labs are helpful. Everybody gets a CBC, a chemistry panel, a urinalysis for the most part. And there's use in that, but I like to get FGF23, which is fibroblast growth factor 23, and I like to do it early. As you said, stage 2, GFR 65. In my paradigm, and renology is kidney success. I don't want failure. Stage 2 isn't normal. The phosphorus may look normal on the lab, but again, I don't think the normal range of phosphorus is normal. And to me, bones and blood vessels going bad is serious. And, my name's Robin. I like early bird medicine. Early is better. You wait longer, more complications, and what's the concern? Inflammation causes scarring. Once these tissues scar, it's a lot harder to fix it. And so, so you start early. I want a uric acid, a SED rate, a C-reactive protein. Even basics, and I'm talking simple stuff. You can do complicated Nutraval and find out a lot of stuff. Oat testing, is this person sensitive to oxalates or other issues like that? To gut dysbiosis, important. You talk to somebody who, I had strep as a kid and they had, 40 rounds of antibiotics. There's probably going to be some damage in the gut. And there's ways that we have to fix that, to repair it, to improve it. And, with kidney, people who do all these things, they see their function improving. And I'll tell you from a personal perspective, I was just about at stage 4 after I had my kidney removed for cancer. The promise of, you can live with one kidney, no problem, was not quite so true. And over time, because I was learning things, I've gotten well into stage 2. The difference in how I feel is night and day. And I'm not arrogant to say, I'm normal now. I can do it. I don't do whatever I want. I do what I want that will keep me healthy.
Right.
The other stuff, I might want it, but I don't want to. I want to be healthy more than I want to eat something that's, and I'm talking, you go to someone's house. I don't eat that stuff. I'm not polite about it anymore. Going out to eat is a problem. You don't know what bad oil they're using, how much salt, what stuff they put in their food. There's some places that are mindful, but not that many.
Yeah. Because that goes back to that, that highly palatable thing that even the restaurants, they want you to come back and back and back and say, "Oh, that was delicious." But there's a reason for that, with what they're putting in it.
I know. And even when I was in Ashland, Oregon, before I moved to Hawaii, and the health food co-op was wonderful. They had this great food, like a food court.
Yeah.
But I started realizing their food was way too salty. And I approached them. I had been the doctor for a lot of the employees at the food co-op for a long time. So I approached them and I said, I tell people to come eat there because there's a beautiful salad bar and just a lovely array of stuff. But I can't tell them to do this if I'm trying to tell them not to eat salt. And they said, well, we have to, because otherwise people won't like the food. And I'm like, congratulations, you and McDonald's are in cahoots. It really annoyed me, actually. This is like, wait a minute, food co-op is supposed to be healthy food.
Right.
And so it's so ingrained in our culture. And so I'm trying to look at, there's a bunch of other testing you can do, like interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. I don't think you have to. I mean, if somebody has declining kidney function, and one thing I wanted to say is there were people who said, oh, you're trying to make normal into pathology. So, capital C, capital K, chronic kidney. And so for the early stage, I use a little d, decline. All right. You don't want to call it disease. I don't care.
Yeah. Or insufficiency, the new term that they, came.
All right, classification. Because there's already blood vessels are damaged. The lining starts being damaged. There's already dysbiosis in the gut. The mitochondria, which are like the little energy makers, are already declining. There's a lot of things, and we know what to do about this stuff. Meaning, doctors who are functional and nutritionally and regeneratively aware know this stuff, but not all the doctors do. And so we're obligated to learn it ourselves.
Right.
And you don't have to know a lot. Don't eat junk.
Yeah. And, another thing I like that you touched on, you and I, we practice functional and integrative type medicine. And a lot of times people equate that to doing, very esoteric or very kind of out there type of things. But you even mentioned a lot of it is just taking those basic things, those basic labs, but optimizing, looking at them, from an optimal or suboptimal standpoint, and not just going by what the reference range told you on there was normal, but looking at, more of that optimization. So I'm glad you pointed that out as well there.
And, I mentioned hydration. Sleep has to be good. I mean, I'm a night owl, so this is a conversation that I have with myself all the time. It's like, I was born in the middle of the night. I get creative. My best work, I like midnight. Exercise is not optional. Toxins, which this conversation is part of, but the toxins are like, what are you putting on your body? What's in your sink? What are you cleaning with? What's in your garage? And it makes all of this toxin accumulation ages us, for one thing, which means, cardio decline and blah, 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 immune system. But it also, it's like, it depletes your vitality, and it's like, so, making the right choices, it keeps coming down. And how do you do that? Self-love. You feed your baby Pepsi Cola, and unfortunately, even, toddlers get a lot of stuff that just makes me cringe because, they're trying to like grow bones and muscles and,
and brain.
and brain.
Development.
It's like, oh my God, and I was very fortunate in my bigger medical practice. I'm older, and so I've morphed into this lovely kidney world. For a family doc who saw everything, this is just such a luxury to go, oh, one thing, which it isn't one thing because it affects the whole body. But, when you work with motivated people, it's a very different thing. And somebody's like, I want to make changes. Tell me, teach me, tell me what to do. Because a lot, like in nephrology, they'll basically say, they don't want to know. They don't want to. And I'm like, I don't know. In my practice, they wanted to. And
they do.
And
And I think most people do want to know. I think a lot of times, especially in the, the traditional setting, which, we've worked in, where you're very limited to the 7-minute visit, and you've got to hit the high notes. You don't have time to talk about those deeper issues that can be impacting other things. And so I think a lot of that goes on to a point of where even for doctors and our colleagues, they kind of put it into their mind and it's like, well, that's not going to be, it's not going to hit the point home hard enough for them in my 7-minute visit versus me just doing this thing. So
because I didn't mention stress. Talk about 7 minutes is just the time to say hello. Then you can get into what's actually going on. And stress is chemistry. Learning how to manage your stress. And so all of those things basically set the terrain. And then when you put these foods in on top of that, somebody who's really slacking on all of these things is just going to really decline. And it's sad to see. And it's really fun to see when people go, oh, I can do this differently.
Right. Yeah. And so what types of things, you mentioned these lifestyle things for us, but in terms of, transitioning someone to improve their kidney function, are there certain types of foods or dietary regimens that you even initially have them follow, and kind of what's the timeline of that usually?
Yeah. I mean, it's the big focus, and these days I've kind of morphed into doing basically kidney coaching telemed wise. I mean, where I live, I talk to a few people, but mostly it's this way.
Yeah.
And so essentially, protein is a big conversation with kidney. Too much protein, which is a big thing these days. Push the protein, push the meat. When you have kidney decline, it's wise to back that off. It doesn't mean none. I mean, obviously you have to support your system. And oftentimes what I see recommended is like 2 or 3 or 5 times the amount of protein somebody should eat.
Yeah.
So there's a number, 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of optimal body weight. You can use a calculator. Chronometer.com is really helpful to figure this stuff out. And I am a supporter of plant-based protein with kidney disease. It does not mean never eat anything animal. Right. You got to go by labs. Somebody who has a high potassium, a high phosphorus, showing some anemia. I mean, there's a lot of unique personalizing with kidney cases. And unfortunately, that's not done. So you go, all right, let's generalize. I think eating organic food matters.
Yeah.
To some extent, I mean, I in my book, which I wrote a basically textbook about all this and talking about bioregulators, which we can address toward the end.
And we'll certainly put that in the show notes too, but go ahead. It's
such a fun thing. And I forgot I didn't bring the book to show off my book. It's really, it basically, what we have accessible to us is huge. And so to regenerate tissue, you got to be motivated to want to do these things. It's just food. Do I want pizza? Yeah, I don't know. I stopped eating dairy. Cheese is enormously high in sodium. When I was taking care of my mom, who had kidney disease and then got congestive heart failure as a result, nobody knew about the kidney part until later. She actually had her renal artery was very blocked. Nobody had figured it out. It's like and so, she loved cheese. When I found out how much salt, every time she'd eat cheese, she'd blow up like a balloon. And I got the low sodium cheese, and she'd sit there like giving me these faces. So it really, you gotta want to do it, I mean, and start earlier than you have congestive heart failure, and you shouldn't. Then it's a punishment because everything's bad. At an earlier stage, you can kind of, be like, oh, I'm into health. And make that your life priority, because if you don't, I mean, and I came up with some mechanisms, of what's happening. I mean, the cardiometabolic disease is crazy. The inflammation, cancer risk, it's like, oh, these minor things in this. And I love the conversation about the AGEs. If you cook your food too hot, you get these molecules that are nasty, and they run around and mess up your proteins. I mean, proteins are like these big, complicated molecules, and when they get damaged, so it's like, if this is the protein and this is the active state, if the proteins get damaged, where's that thing that, the body's a little bit Neanderthal, but it's brilliant in its ability to like figure out and adapt. And what we don't want is doing stuff that's maladaptive. Eating foods like, I'm hungry, now I'm not hungry. Okay, that was good. I adapted hunger into I'm satiated. But is this stuff that I use to get rid of the hunger gonna bite my butt in a month or a year? oh, wait a minute, what else can I do?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
mean, personally, I pray for guidance. Show me what I need to do. Make
right.
this, because it's complicated out there. You go
Mhm.
to the store and it's like, whoa, I don't
Yeah, and
know.
they're option overload. Yeah, but that's so important. Kind of brings us back to that other part of what we discussed about listening to your body and how when you have had those things before, how did you feel, or when you had other things, how did you feel, and really making those choices, based upon how you felt and how you may want to feel and what your goals are in terms of that. But Dr. Robin, I'm just so excited that you are on the show today to talk about kidneys. Now, before I let you go, if there was one actionable takeaway about protecting our kidneys from the effects of ultra processed foods, it's just something that our listeners could even implement just this week, what would that thing be?
Fall in love with cooking from basic ingredients.
I love that.
Learn how to make food from scratch
Mhm.
and enjoy it. And one of the questions I think that your questions were fabulous, had to do with people who are busy.
Mhm.
We have a crazy culture: drink 4 more cups of coffee and keep going. I was there, and so I created this mindset of fast food is good for you. Okay, you want to know why would she say that?
There you
I
go.
would prepare a lot of food, cook a big pot of soup, cook, bake stuff. It's fun. I
Mhm.
mean, it's like, put on my little cooking outfit and I'm going for it. Then I would come home 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes I had to go to the hospital, heat up the soup. It's fast food. And so it takes some intention, but
Yes.
it's kind of a joy, and you're like, I did this.
Right. Yeah.
You
And when
know,
you don't overcomplicate it, it really can be fast. I had a discussion with a patient one day, and we talked about how she would sometimes, on her way home, she would stop by the fast food restaurant to get a pre-prepared salad. But, at these restaurants, they put like all the cheese and the gluten, all of this stuff on it. So it's like a, 1,500 calorie salad by the time you get it. And so I asked her, I said, well, how long, do you find that it probably takes you by the time you place your order, you sit in the line and get it? She's like, oh, it probably takes about 15 minutes or so. I said, so what if you went home, right? You went home and you put lettuce greens in a bowl. If you're busy, buy the pre-washed ones. Just do that if you need to. But you put those things in a bowl, put some beans or some other things, some nuts, and those things over it. About how long do you think that will take? She's like, probably even quicker than the 15 minutes. Exactly.
exactly.
And you're going to feel so much better and not have all of those
The
additives.
joy of cooking. I
Yeah.
still got my copy from, the 50s, I think, is my
Yeah.
mom's book. It's that's why make a lot. People who have a histamine problem, that's not so good because when food sits around. But basically, like, I make a salad, I make like enough for 15 people. I mean, I make a lot, and then I might have it. All right, the third day, maybe it's not as fabulous, but it's still
Right.
good. I mean, I
Mhm.
cooked a lot. There's 2 of us. Sometimes I have guests. Okay, I was going to use this tomorrow, but they ate it. No matter. It's like a big casserole, a big pot of soup. And
Yeah.
I tell this story when I went to nursing school first.
Ah.
And when I was in nursing school, I was busy because I was working and going to nursing school. And I had a typing business. So I was typing class notes for the med students.
So you're a busy lady.
And yet on Saturday mornings, I would get up, and this is true story. I would cook a pot of beans in my pressure cooker. Now these smart pots or whatever you call
Yeah.
them.
Instapots.
I would cook a pot of rice, a pot of beans, bake bread, make some kind of dessert. I'd make a casserole. I'd make a pot of soup, and probably a few other things. I mean, back in those days, I love tofu. Tofu was a wonderful
Yeah.
food for kidney. It's low phosphorus. It's good protein. If you learn how to cook it. I mean, I had
Right.
a house guest now, and I've made tofu for the last 2 days. And she said last night, I don't really like tofu, but I love yours. You learn
Yeah.
how to. it.
You definitely have to know how to cook it. Yeah. Yeah.
Herbs and spices make it.
Mhm.
And so basically, I had food all week.
Yeah.
It was, I'd come home, 5 minutes of heating stuff up, boom,
Right.
boom. Sometimes I would even do it in separate jars. I'd have like things in my refrigerator,
Mhm.
but it's doable. And
Yeah.
and just have to decide that. And I remember that place where it's like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I don't have time for anything. And I went back in those days. I mean, I would go out to eat a lot more. I don't anymore because I don't trust, once you have vulnerability, it's a choice.
Yeah.
I'm not as vulnerable as I was because of these choices. And you have to believe, like, I can get better.
Right.
And you can. And I mean, it's all basically, up to God and all that. But I'm God's agent for my own health.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. It goes back to that. The body is a temple. And so, in treating it as such. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. So, Dr. Robin, before you go, let my listeners know how they can connect with you.
So I wrote this book, which I wish that I had. I'm sorry, I forgot. But anyway, check it out on my website, which is all one run-on, Renology, Renology. Renology is kidneysuccess.com. And I've been writing some cool blog posts as I get inspired by stuff. I'm like, oh, I want to share this. I put all the interviews that I've done, and I love doing these because every interviewer is just beautiful and unique in their own, the facet that they bring. We're all creating a new awareness. So come see me. You can email me on that, although I'm very bad at responding lately because I'm going away. And so, but we're all in this together, and it really, takes all of us together to have the strength to resist putting things in our bodies that we know aren't good.
Yeah.
It's challenging, and I admire every effort. And when even one is going to suck your vitality, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But even making that first small step, as you reminded us. So thank you so much. Now, for those listening in the Atlanta area, we're opening our new Atlanta location of Essence of Health, and we've opened up the Atlanta Founder Circle for our first 10 members with some really special bonus benefits, including a free comprehensive metabolic lab package, continuous glucose monitoring, and more. So if you've been thinking about getting serious about your health this year, right now is the perfect time. You can learn more and grab one of those 10 spots at drshayla.com/EOH. Before we go, make sure that you've subscribed to the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. And if you've enjoyed today's episode with Dr. Robin and I, we really appreciate you leaving a 5-star review on your favorite platform. This season, we'll be reviewing more health news and giving you the integrative and functional expertise on topics that matter to you most. Don't forget to grab that free New Year Health Reset checklist to help you get started. Remember, the essence of health is in you. Thank you for joining me today on the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast. Click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a moment of the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast. Check out the show notes to obtain your free tips for healthy living guide to get you started on your health and wellness path. Follow me on social media at Essence of Health Wellness Clinic on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and at dr.tw@𝐒𝐢𝐥𝐿 on TikTok. Interested in becoming a member of the Essence of Health coaching program? Well, head on over to www.𝐒𝐢𝐥𝐿.com. The essence of health is in you.